Pay attention, because this is one of the greatest beginning scenes of an action movie of all time. This main character's name is Cha, and he's greeted by two men who broke into his home, standing in the darkness. The lights come on, and before any words are spoken, this guy takes out his knife, saying he's looking for something. Cha stares, then takes out his wallet. He laughs, and... one swift action completely shifts the mood. This guy's utterly terrified at what just happened. Nobody got hurt, not even a threat has been made. Yet what just happened told them everything they need to know, and that this guy is not to be messed with. It's not the fact that he managed to swipe a knife out of his loose grip. It's the fact that he had the audacity to do it. He stole his weapon, with his wallet by the way, so he wouldn't get cut, tossed it, signifying he doesn't need it, and demanded they leave. Along with the fact that Cha has an emotionless stare, he spoke once, they're reading his energy. They know now that he's the real deal. This scene, along with 4 others from this movie, The Man from Nowhere, holds this concept, where just his presence is enough to give people unease. And that kind of energy can only truly be conveyed when you have the capabilities to back it up, which is why he has a very wide variety of skill sets and fighting abilities he uses in all of these scenes. But before every fight scene, Cha gives a 3-tiered warning before he actually gets into a fight, which is what he does in this scene. He does this because in his day-to-day life, he doesn't actually want to deal with brawling. You'd have to push past all of his warnings to make him actually take things physically into his own hands. See how he presented his wallet? He'd rather be robbed and move on than have to deal with everything that would go into taking these guys on, even though he knows he would win. The only reason this is all happening is because of this little girl's mom. This kid, So-mi, lives next door to Cha with her drug addict mom. She basically has no one and tries to be friends with Cha, but while he does care for her, he's still kinda mean and ignores her due to his own internal conflicts and issues from his past. This friendship they have comes to a head in this emotional scene where the acting, dialogue, framing is just perfect, but she basically pours out her soul to Cha and leaves, only to find her mom being tortured for stealing drugs, and then they both get kidnapped. That's what led us to this scene, where they were looking for the drugs her mom took. When the lights turned on, Cha looked at them with wide eyes, but doesn't change his stance. He doesn't really make any reaction except for looking at the two of them. When he brings out his wallet, he gives them what I call the look. This is the first of the 3 tiers Cha gives when being pushed towards violence. No words, no movement, just the look. Before making any physical movement, he's warning his opponent with his eyes. This guy laughed at the wallet, which broke past the look, making Cha. He took the weapon, showed he didn't need it if things were to continue escalating, and commanded they leave. This is the 2nd tier, the warning. I've showed you twice, don't mess with me. I'm warning you, man. Unfortunately, this big guy still doesn't get it, and he walks forward. A window breaks, and we cut to this guy on the phone terrified. This guy comes up for backup, and we see the result of strike 3. The 3rd tier. These guys pushed their luck, or really this guy did, and paid the price. If you've seen this movie before, you may have noticed that the first few times he fights people, we in the audience don't actually get to see it. The movie just shows right before, and then the aftermath. It's like the absence of a fight makes the actual fighting that much better. It builds up curiosity, excitement, and aura about this character for the audience. He tells this guy on the phone he's not helping them, and they should leave. It's not until he hears the voice of the little girl being kidnapped when his face changes. Again, look at the eyes. The one last thing in his life he cared about, the one last thing that held him connected to the world was this little girl. And this is when he learns this one last part of his life is going to be taken away. This is where he starts the rescue. And he doesn't know it yet, but the timer's ticking because she's being kidnapped to a place where they take out and sell children's eyeballs. So he has these 3 tiers he presents each enemy, but on his mission to save So-mi, he has to brawl with more and more people. After delivering a package for these 2 who told him they'd let the girl go once he made the delivery, going to and escaping jail after this truly amazing scene, he went back to find who they are by tracking who bought this phone that they gave him. He goes in and immediately breaks down his 3-tiered intimidation. The look, expressionless stare. Cha asks about the phone, but gets denied. The warning. Look at how calm he is, giving a deep threat with zero emotion or tone in his voice. The movie's teased us enough with 2 fights we don't even get to see. And when this guy brings a huge knife out, unfortunately for them, this is strike 3. Cha had a knife blunt side up held to his chest. He pivoted on his left foot to rotate and simultaneously grab the wrist. It's important he grabbed the wrist here because it restricts any movement possible that could swing the knife around, like what I was talking about in knife defense in the Nobody video. Since this guy's arm is already as far away from his body as possible, he has no strength, and Cha has all the leverage on his arm. If you're able to get a limb outstretched, the better control you'll have, because the strength your opponent has with an outstretched arm is minimal. He hyperextends or breaks the elbow, and then Cha elbows his face. Using your elbow is actually underrated. I've said this before. If you throw it forward, then it's your elbow and the bone in your forearm making contact. Pulling the elbow back is your elbow and the humerus. I actually just learned this bone's called the humerus. That's actually hilarious. Anyway, you know what's also underrated? Using every part of your body in a fight. Boss root and philosophy.
Suddenly, boom, a headbutt. Bang, follow up with a headbutt. Boom, knee to the head. And look what we got here. Smack his face.
There's the head, the elbow, forearm, palm, fist, knee, shin, foot, just to name a few. The more you understand self-defense, the more you realize ways you can gain leverage or hurt someone by understanding joints, weak areas, proper form, but also a greater awareness of how to use every part of your body. After he hyperextends this guy's elbow, he had no range of motion for anything except cranking his head back into his nose or elbowing his face. Next, this guy grabs him and Cha leans right to then have more power to yank his wrist the other way. Pretty good wrist lock. Do you see the speed he has grabbing the wrist to the right to then pull it to the left? Notice he's super fast, but also very smooth. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. He grabs the wrist overall, and you can't exactly see this, but this pull this way allows him to gain the most momentum for the yank left, but it's also for him to get the right grip around the wrist. A wise man used to tell me to grab the meat of the hand. And I didn't understand, so I would do it wrong. So like Cha here, grabbing it on the left and right, this part and this part, and have the thumbs as high on the back of the hand as possible to drive the pressure this way. This way they cannot move their own wrist, and you have the control. Here, Cha has control because the arm is outstretched, and while he rotates it this way, he's getting the right grip on it. He could actually pause here a moment to make sure it's right, because slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you don't do it right, then it'll either take longer or it'll fail. Anyway, the yank this way is where the wrist is locked this way and this way. And then the elbow is also being locked. So it's not so much the momentum of this pull that's throwing this guy this way, it's the joint lock that's forcing him to go that way. So he's doing the hard work for you. Then a guy comes at him with a knife, and Cha wraps a towel around the knife to disarm it. I've got nothing to say about that. That's movie magic. Although, he does yank it towards grip being the weakest. If it's like right at the thumb, it could break the thumb too while the knife's disarming. Or, if he had control of the wrist and knife, he could press on the thumb, and then that's another joint lock. And that would bring this guy to his knees. Cha takes the towel around his neck, pulls him in, and then John Wick throws him over his shoulder, using his hips to create more power and a higher throw. You know, this movie was actually a big inspiration for John Wick. Next guy comes at him with an ashtray. Cha grabs the arm and takes this guy's forward momentum into glass. This takes a lot of precision, like movie characters blocking people wielding knives, but whatever. Then Cha throws a knife in the wall, and the fight's over. In terms of fights for this movie, this was one of the tamer ones in my opinion. There's a lot of cuts, so it's kind of hard to understand what's happening. The best fight is of course the final one, where all the awesomeness is on full display, and we get a taste of the one-on-one with this guy in the bathroom fight scene. Cha's using this guy from the previous place to help him find this guy in the club. He says where he is on call, and after this guy leaves the frame alive and slides back in dead, their faces say it all. They run out, and now, because of what happened before, this guy's already got poop in his pants. But realistically, how far can a look actually take you in real life? Well, there's more to it than just having a blank stare. I've said it already, the confidence has to come from somewhere. Say you're in a social situation and things are starting to heat up. In a bad way. Your posture, mannerisms, energy exuded shows exactly how you think the fight's about to go, and people will read that energy. So I can't go over here and tell you, just be confident, bro. Just look intimidating. You gotta know your stuff. And I'm sorry, but knowing how to fight is a valuable skill, and valuable skills take hard work. That's why they're valuable. Which is why I've explained watching a movie doesn't mean you just suddenly understand self-defense. If you watch my videos so far and you think that, let me explain a little bit better. Action movies are just a fraction of the whole puzzle, and are genuinely helpful in my opinion, but they come secondary to all the other prerequisites of learning real self-defense. They're a way to passively discover new techniques or grease the groove of self-defense in your mind, and it's done in an entertaining way. If you walk around school, public, bars, whatever, and you aren't confident in yourself or your abilities, people are going to know. Same thing for the opposite. People read your energy. The time's gonna pass anyway. Why not build the skill and knowledge over self-defense, and down the line you'll look at yourself and realize you stand taller, your head isn't looking down, eye contact doesn't scare you, especially with people who you'd consider enemies or whatever. These are my specific experiences, by the way. Confidence and a self-assured energy is exuded in hundreds of ways. Peep this clip from the show Reacher. By the way, I think this is corny acting and writing, but it illustrates my point in an exaggerated way. This guy's leaving this restaurant mad at his girl for leaving a 40% tip and says she's wasting his money. He's being pretty abusive, and Reacher turns to look at him. The guy calls him out, and Reacher's just looking. No threats verbally made, but the threat is clear. The guy calms himself down and says, "Listen, man, I'm just having a bad day." Reacher's still looking. Won't happen again. Alright, first of all, it won't happen again. You're fired, bro, and you're bald. But in a much less exaggerated way, this is real. Reacher's tall and super muscular. That helps. But a look like this, eye contact, silence, he knows he can do this, so he's warning this guy. Of course, people aren't going to automatically fall in line because someone has good posture, which is why you're confident for a reason, because you're willing and able to take it to the next level. You can't fake confidence like this without knowing you can do this. Yes, he's an actor, but in real life, having the cojones to stare down dangerous people with true intention to effectively intervene, then you're dangerous too. And you gotta work for it to become dangerous. Study self-defense, increase your awareness, and you'll reap the rewards for the rest of your life. Cha gave the look and got skipped right over to strike 3. Except this part now is actually his warning, because all he wants is information to find So-mi. Stabbing him with his own knife is a warning, and when he's reluctant, more pain. He blocked his wrist upward with his forearm. At the same time, he wrapped his hand around his elbow. Now he has control of both joints, making the redirect back into this guy easy, since he can't wiggle his wrist or move his arm. A bit of banter, and Cha picks him up in a grip he didn't have before. He was holding the knife in like this, so he had to reach in the arm and grab the front side of the knife. Now this guy is literally locked in this position. His hand is held down on the knife and his arm's locked up, and Cha has complete control over him. Then this guy pulls up and unfortunately kills this dude. I kind of like this guy. He made funny faces. Cha makes a big leap and runs into his stall. This guy shoots 2 stalls and low-key kills an innocent lady, and Cha comes out and breaks something on this guy. I guess it was like a toilet seat or something. The gun hand gets caught on the stall, and Cha slams it to drop the gun, kicks it away, and chops him in the throat with his hand in a C shape. Y'all know I like the throat chop. This should have done more damage than shown. He should be choking right now. They struggle a bit, then Cha gets out of a chokehold like this. Kinda cool. Then puts a hook in the stomach. He actually does quite a bit of boxing in this movie. Something a little more rare for characters like John Wick or the Equalizer. Then watch this. The punch got thrown and Cha went forearm to forearm and swung the punch away. Does it again. Does anybody know what martial art this primarily comes from? Filipino Kali. This is shown on full display later in the film when these two duke it out again, but what's happening right now is just a little taste. The idea is passing the arm that's coming to you, more commonly in knife defense with Kali, but still. Cha punches him so hard it breaks the stall door. They struggle on the ground, a few more punches thrown. They blocked each other's punch the same way by guarding their face. Then Cha is blocking every punch this guy's throwing with his forearm to forearm. Instead of movies like John Wick where sometimes he's catching it with just his hand, this is a little more realistic. Cha throws him into the mirror and gets multiple elbows to the back. Listen to this at each elbow. This guy's supposed to speak English, though it's English dub, because I don't think this actor actually speaks English. He gets his gun and shoots Cha as he runs into the stall. Cha runs out and throws the axe at him, but it sticks in the wall as he gets away. They have the stare off into club before this guy interrupts and decides the fighting's over. He leaves a phone and dips. Cha runs after, and as they're leaving, the guy is telling Cha to call him on the phone. Windows down and everything. Cha has an axe. They're right there. A plus B equals C, dude. Come on. Throw the axe at them. Then we get this great scene, the acting, music, quotes. This movie's beautiful. Cha goes and gets surgery, feels sad, gives himself a fade, looks at a pretty sky, then has a John Wick suit-up scene before chasing around a kid who's one of the many who were kidnapped into this drug operation, like So-mi. Cha's wanted, so when police officers recognize him, he has to run whilst still trying to follow this kid. He sees him get in a van and starts running down to it when officers catch up with him. Okay, hold on, what just happened? Cha saw the officer look away and used his hat to direct the gun away from him to the right. This opened him up to grabbing the wrist and yanking it and the whole officer to the left. Same joint lock he used earlier. Then a simple punch put this officer down somehow. This one's quick. He got the gun pointed away and then created more space for momentum to take the officer down. Cha chases the van, some things happen, and a building explodes. Another phenomenal scene. He tracks this guy down, demanding he brings So-mi. He comes in the building. This guy gets a little mad. Cha gives another amazing quote, feeling emotion so strong, unbelievable acting, and he begins the mass genocide of this entire room. Through the knee, in the head, shoulder, headshot. Someone runs at him and he barrel rolls out the way, blocks at the wrist, and holds the arm away, whilst delivering blows and using this person as a shield between him and everyone else. When fighting multiple people, using one person as a shield, as well as trying to line everyone up to take each person one-on-one.
So when moving against a group, what I want to be able to do is create a line.
His arm gets sliced and a metal bat swung on him, which he blocks with his forearms. I mean, yeah, that's gonna leave one hell of a mark. Could have broken his bones, but the adrenaline is so high in this moment, he doesn't even look like he felt it one bit. Another knife comes in and he grabs the forearms and now has another person to shield from the rest of the pack. Stabs him with his own knife and runs him into the next person while dodging the metal bat. A throat chop and another wrist and arm lock. This right here is a perfect moment where he could push the wrist further and take the knife out, or the knife could actually just drop out. You can do this right now. Hold your hand up in a fist and push your wrist downward. You literally can't keep a closed grip. The fingers are forced to open up. I've talked about swiping a knife towards grip being the weakest, but also if you have control of the wrist and bend it down like this, the knife comes out extremely easy. Still, if a knife is involved, get out of there as quick as possible, but if you're unable to escape, that's another method to disarming a knife. This guy actually lowers his gun in awe at Chaw's abilities right now, taking down a whole room of men as one guy. Chaw dodges another bat and takes his forearm to this guy's bicep. This likely hit his brachial plexus, or nerve bundle on the inside of his bicep, which could have caused temporary paralysis of his arms, making him drop the bat. There's a weak point on the body. Think about that. Another bat hit his leg, which made him stumble. Hit again with the bat in the back. Rolled through this guy and dragged him by his wrist. Again, putting someone in between the rest of the crowd. Chaw dodges another bat and drags this guy down the hall. He slits this guy's forearms so he can no longer grip anything. He's slicing the muscles in his arm that we use to grip. He does this multiple times in this fight. And then he slits the killing blow to his arteries in his wrist, where he'll just bleed out. Next guy comes and the knife arm is passed around, like wax on, wax off, just like I was talking about earlier. Just wait though, it'll get even better. Arm slice, armpit slice. All of these are so they lose their ability to grip. Then, still controlling the arm, he wraps around his back and holds the knife at his throat. Similarly to this stance, Chaw has this guy's arm and body locked up and is holding him as a shield to the last two. Stabs his chest and actually gets a knife to the buttock. But Chaw uses that to hold this guy there. So now this guy can't move and Chaw can slice his leg. Listen, a lot of these movies where knives are involved, they're always aimed for the body in critical areas. These scenes give a new take on knife usage because there's an emphasis on the limbs. Just because there's no organs in the limbs doesn't mean a knife can't do significant damage in a life or death scenario. Chaw dodges the next guy's knife with his head, but also extends his arm to catch over his shoulder, now locking his arm up from moving. He wraps his leg around, which leverages the whole arm and breaks it. For extra damage, Chaw twists his whole body to absolutely shatter the arm. This is the power of joint locks. This guy attacked with a knife, but two leveraging points locking his shoulder and elbows up renders the knife completely useless, and Chaw in complete control. That's what joint locks do. They grant control. Then he delivers a finishing knife. Instead of slicing his throat and making him bleed out, he's nice enough to just kill him immediately. Genocide complete. Except for one last person who wants to duke it out old-fashioned. Why? I don't know. He has nothing to prove. Chaw doesn't give him the look. He gives a disturbing 1,000-yard stare. He stalks in front of him and doesn't get in a fighting stance. He just waits. This guy whips out his karambit and runs at Chaw. Calm dodge and wax on. This is the fight where all the Kali knife techniques come in. Forearm to forearm, passing of the arm. Every block is either hitting forearms or passing the arm. Chaw slices up with the knife, and when it's at end range, this guy blocks near his elbow to the wrist and wraps around, pulling the arm down with his other hand. Then Chaw blocks his knife and very swiftly bisects with his other arm, exposing this guy's entire side. Here's a big focal point people talk about when it comes to this scene. This was where Chaw had all of this exposed to him because both arms were out of the equation, and he could have quickly gotten to the side or behind him and stabbed into these open areas. This is quartering and flanking.
I'm going to the outside. There can be a little cut over here. I can stab over there, push, and I'm looking for stabs and attacks from here.
Why did Chaw not watch a YouTube video before this? Gosh. Instead, he slashed at the knee where this guy stepped his foot back to dodge it. Good footwork. Some open palm slapping, more Kali techniques, very Jason Bourne-esque. Some first person views. Chaw blocks the karambit with his own blade a few times, which makes sense since a curved karambit acts as a sort of cage. This part's super sick, just looks really cool. Choreography is great. This guy throws his arm out and Chaw locks his finger and wrist. Beautiful. Your body has joints everywhere. If you bend a joint the wrong way, way, it's going to be painful. When done right, muscle cannot defeat a joint lock, no matter how strong you are. So he's got his finger, and what he could do is press harder, and this guy would have a choice to make. Let his finger break and continue, or drop to his knees. Cha just uses it to stay close and continue blocking and passing his attacks, but he could have pressed the joint lock harder. While blocking, he looks to the side. This is something the Equalizer did too. I said he just wasn't looking at his opponents, but it's actually using peripheral vision to see all attacks. Cha wraps his arm around to trap it, like Hutch did in the bus scene, grabs the arm and pushes across his body behind the elbow, trapping that as well. Now this guy has both of his arms trapped and is really unable to defend himself. Cha stabs him a few times, then they get in a standstill, and Cha needs more strength to get his knife through. So he bites the hand forward to free up his left arm and thrusts the knife into the heart. See what I mean? Using every resource you have at your disposal. Then the guy's dead. What a scene. I wish I could watch it for the first time again. Listen, this movie's flippin' amazing. Almost every scene in it is its own iconic scene. So many quotes are in it that are just beautifully written, and the acting, this guy's like my favorite character. When he whips the knife out and acts scared of it, then smiles, it perfectly shows who his character is supposed to be. Insecure, arrogant. Later, he tries to impress this girl who's not feeling him, so he just drugs her drink, then tells her to use his lighter because it's DuPont. Hilarious. This guy's such a scary looking character. The fit in this scene perfectly matches his villain energy too, and how he acts to So-Mi when she finds her mom being tortured, incredible and disturbing. This dude in the bathroom was hecka funny too when he was on the phone. Yeah. Those who live for tomorrow versus those who live for today. How many cavities do you have? So many quotes. This is easily my favorite action movie of all time, and I think it can be argued as one of the greatest movies of all time. Maybe, maybe not, but it's absolutely incredible. I highly encourage you watch this movie. Also, this child actor, Kim Se-ron, ended her own life last year in early 2025, which is super sad. She was unbelievably talented. I've only seen her in this movie, but she did an unbelievable job. Throughout the movie, and especially the final scenes, I've never had a movie move me as much as her performance and the whole movie did. Anyway, this is a great movie, great choreography, new video soon. Peace.